Batman Incorporated Issue 4. You thought I forgot? Nope, I was just postponing it because the DCU Chapter 1 kinda was taking over my content for a couple days. In fact, it kinda still is. But Issue 5 actually came out a few days ago, so I had to get to Issue 4 eventually. And I'm glad I did, because I actually really liked it. We start off with Ghostmaker again. He's flying in his plane, worried about Clown Hunter, when his tracker turns back on, saying he's at HQ. He gets on the phone with the rest of the team to see what their status is. Gaucho and Raven Red are still having out with Fissure, and we see that Gaucho is very much still annoyed of Ghostmaker being the leader. We see Batman Japan is having a very cartoonish fight with Hollow, with him being tossed into the air and telling Ghostmaker that they're going to have to call him back, which I thought was very funny. The Knight, meanwhile, seems to be the only one really holding her own against one of these new Bat characters, with her fighting Fallen, who says that she was experimented on by Lex Luthor. We also learn that Wingman is still knocked out, meaning Knight is on her own in this, holding her own with Fallen, which is actually pretty impressive. Knight is trying to talk down Fallen and trying to keep her from killing Avery, but it doesn't seem like it's working, as Fallen also isn't just a great fighter, but she also has some kind of abilities, which she uses on Knight. She has some sort of weird pink energy that affects people's minds. The Knight does manage to hold her own, even though that she can't beat a metahuman, or maybe Fallen isn't a metahuman. You see, it's very unclear here because it is said that she has this weird pink stuff laced into her nails. But it's not said if that is her powers or if she just has technology, so she might not actually be a metahuman, but regardless, she has some sort of advance in this fight. Anyways, Avery does actually get away, but Fallen tells Knight she is sorry, but she actually respects her. However, regardless of that respect, Avery still needs to die in her eyes, and now Knight and Wingman are in Fallen's custody. And she kidnaps them in a way that is honorable to Knight and embarrassing to Wingman, with Fallen carrying Knight and just dragging Wingman behind her on the ground, which I thought was pretty funny. Even though it's probably not intended to be a joke, I thought it was pretty funny. Ghostmaker arrives back at HQ, where Black Mist and Dark Ranger are just hanging out. He's looking for Clown Hunter, who no one has seen. And that's because he's not actually there. But there is a box with Clown Hunter's tracker and a message saying that you can't control us anymore. But that's when we get a twist. Black Mist attacks the guys. She stabs Ghostmaker in the back and wins a fight with Dark Ranger. And from out of nowhere, Clown Hunter, by Phantom One's side, appears, confirming Black Mist is a traitor. Back to the Batman Japan and Hollow fight. Hollow is holding Batman Japan up to a tree, strangling him, when we learn that Batman Japan actually has a foot knife in his boot, which is both really funny and in character for him to have, since he's typically presented as being kind of like the Deadpool of the group. And he slashes Hollow in the leg to free himself. Grey Wolf has just finally decided to actually come back into the fight, because for some unknown reason, he's just been standing there. And he doesn't even come in at a good time. He only shows up to see if Batman Japan is okay. Not while he was getting strangled, that was okay. Just if he was okay after the whole strangling event. Meanwhile, Hollow seems really angry over being stabbed, despite the fact that he was strangling a man. And then the plane shows up above them, who's Hollow's backup. This is the same plane that Knight and Wingman were taken to. Meanwhile, with the fight between Fissure and Gaucho and Raven Red, Gaucho holds Fissure down, giving Raven Red the time to disable his armor. Fissure then explains why they're all together. All these vigilantes were experimented on by Lex Luthor, who abandoned them. And after that, they were found by Phantom One, and recruited them to help his crusade with killing Ghostmaker's old mentors, who were just happened to be responsible for the deaths of other people that they were related to. And that's when their backup comes, which of course is Fallen and Hollow, because they already took in their, rivals. But there's also a new female member on the team, whose name Oryx, and they take Gaucho and Raven Red. And we go back to the fight of Phantom One and Ghostmaker, while Black Mist and Clown Hunter just stay back and watch, with us learning that Black Mist was actually the one who saved Phantom One all those years ago. Ghostmaker is also still injured from getting stabbed, making it not exactly an equal fight. We then get a flashback to Black Mist's origin. She tried to be a vigilante, but it didn't really work, as she would be paralyzed by a man, the same man who's actually killed all the way back in issue 1. But after being caught as a vigilante, she would be imprisoned afterwards. She would fake her own death and create an exospine so she could walk again. And as a vigilante once again, she would stumble across the scene of Phantom One being left for dead, and she would save him. After that, they would become partners. Present day, Clown Hunter, Phantom One, and Black Mist have brought Ghostmaker out to the desert to execute him. And this issue ends with Clown Hunter holding up his bat, prepared to kill his mentor. Now, I personally like this issue, but I have to admit, this series really feels like it's mislabeled, as it's not really a Batman Incorporated series, but a Ghostmaker series, with a handful of standout characters here and there. But a lot of the Batman Incorporated characters don't have to be here. Grey Wolf, Wingman, Raven Red, Dark Ranger, El Gaucho, they all really feel unnecessary characters in this story, who don't really add anything, despite the fact it's meant to be their story. But I will say this, as a Ghostmaker story, it is in my opinion very good, and I really like it. I think this issue alone really shows how Ghostmaker has changed as a person, but still isn't exactly a good person. He won't even admit what he did. And I like seeing him go against his current sidekick and his previous sidekick, and how they kind of have a vibe that reminds me a lot of the whole Robins and Batman's family, but more in a darker light. Like, darker than even Jason Todd. I also really like the twist for Black Mist, because so far in this series, in the first 3 issues, I personally did not understand what the point of the character was. She was a completely new character that they just randomly brought in, and she did absolutely nothing in the first 3 issues. But now that they reveal that the character is actually a traitor, and you finally see what her whole origin is, I personally kind of understand why she's here more. And you can also go back in those previous issues and read the character in a different light, because she does actually come across a little sketchy. It's, in my opinion, a nice surprise to in my opinion, a previously boring character, as I don't think she's so boring anymore. Maybe she'll go back to that, but so far I'm actually pretty interested in the character. The Knight and Batman Japan, in my opinion, are definitely the best of the Batman Incorporated characters outside of Ghostmaker. They're definitely given the most to do, and I thought both characters had a pretty cool fight scene with their fighting, that being Fallen and Hollow. Also, in my opinion, the two of them are the most competent because the people they were paired with didn't do anything, yet they managed to hold their own. Both of these characters are characters I personally always was a fan of, so perhaps that could make me biased into why I prefer them over the rest of the team. But I do feel like the two of them definitely stand out when it comes down to the rest of the characters, outside of Ghostmaker. And for the villain of this book, I personally think Phantom One is a pretty good villain. Especially because I very much understand why he is a villain. Ghostmaker did leave him for dead. In fact, I don't even know if I would call him a villain, as he's not really doing anything that is too villainous. I mean, he's murdering people, I guess, but he's killing bad people, so wouldn't that make him an anti-hero, not a villain? Regardless, he's a very good antagonist for this comic. And that's it. Like always, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!